I work on a tactical SWAT team, and I also work for the U.S. Marshals Task Force. I hunt people. It's a great job. I love it. I've worked this job 14 years. You know, I ain't never been hit clean in the face one time. It's a fact. It ain't because I'm so good. I ain't bad, but I ain't because I'm so good. You know why? Because I learned long ago I got to throw the first punch. And I learned long ago why I'm justified in throwing the first punch. Don't look up here like, oh, police brutality. The people I hit, you wish you could hit. Trust me. Right? Yeah. You throw a punch, and the pursuit will follow. I thought he was going to shoot me. I'm thinking I don't want to die. For that very reason, I never thought I was going to have to shoot him. There is times for righteous release. That's what I call it when we have a use of force. Mm-hmm. Because every now and then you have to actually use force. Mm-hmm. We don't go around.
Thursday, former Franklin County Sheriff's Deputy Jason Meade was found guilty of reckless homicide in the shooting death of 23-year-old Casey Goodson Jr. But the jury could not agree on the murder charge. And for many people across Ohio and across the country, this case never stopped being personal. Difference between murder and reckless homicide in Ohio is that in order to be convicted of murder, you have to prove that the person intentionally meant to kill. For reckless homicide, you only have to prove that the person did dumb shit that caused another person's death. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you the series of events back from 2020, just to get you all up to speed on everything what has taken place, so you can sort of understand what's going on with the case that was just tried last week. On December 4th, 2020, Casey Goodson Jr. was shot and killed by Officer Jason Meade. He was standing at his grandmother's door about to walk in with sandwiches that he had went and purchased. This audio you're about to hear is his grandmother calling the 911 dispatcher when the incident took place.
I'm in the house, and I don't know if he's okay. Because there's two out there.
I'm sorry, what just happened?
My grandson just got shot.
Okay, where did this happen?
At my house. He lives there
Okay,
with me.
so who shot him?
I don't know. I just
Okay.
heard the gunshots, and I would get up, and he's laying in the door.
Okay. And nobody saw anything prior to this?
No, he went to the dentist or somewhere and came home, and all of a sudden has a bunch of gunfire. He's not a bad kid. He doesn't have a police record. He works. I don't know what happened.
Okay, is there anybody in the house that can tell you who shot him?
No, they don't know. They were threatening everybody in the house. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
It's okay, we've got help headed that way. Did they say if anybody was outside arguing with him or anything?
Pardon me?
Is he breathing?
I don't know. They won't let me in the kitchen by him.
Did he say if he had like any disputes with anybody?
No, not that I know of. I'm not aware of anything.
Okay, what's your name and telephone number, ma'am?
Sharon Payne?
Do you know if he was dropped off by anyone?
No, he went to the dentist and somewhere he was driving my car. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
All right.
I didn't put together right away that it was gunshots because I was so shocked. This is the door he was coming in. The FBI took the screen that he was shot through. When I saw him, he was laying here with 3 bullet holes in his back, a big one in the middle of his shoulder blade. I'll never forget what happened because I saw him on the floor and I saw the bullet holes in his back, and that's something that I can't get out of my head.
Inside the house, there were children eating in the kitchen when Casey stumbled through the door after being shot. He fell on the floor right in front of them. Earlier that morning, a U.S. Marshals Task Force was searching for a different individual who reportedly lived on the same street as Casey. Officer Ryan Rosser was driving one unmarked vehicle, and Jason Meade was in the other. Investigators later said that Casey Goodson Jr., also known as CJ, was not the suspect that they were looking for. According to testimony, Meade jumped out of his vehicle yelling for Casey to show his hands while Casey was walking toward the side door of his grandmother's home. Then the shots fired. Neither officer was wearing a body camera that day. When the responding officers rolled Casey over, his gun was reportedly unholstered with the safety mechanism on. Investigators say 6 bullets were fired. Every shot struck CJ in the back or buttocks. meaning CJ was not facing Meade when he was shot.
It's just sickening. You know, he didn't live the type of lifestyle that you would even worry about him being shot by anybody, let alone the police. Casey's never been in trouble. Casey was a great kid in every aspect. So from the beginning, it's been my goal to show the world exactly who Casey was.
Because he didn't deserve to be shot, period, let alone killed. He's not that kind of kid. And I'm sure they found that out by now.
CJ was only 23 years old. He had recently earned his CDL after graduating high school, and he had been doing long-haul trucking routes for Walmart from Ohio to California. But according to family, he stepped away from the road to come home and help his mother care for her newborn twins.
Jason Meade was a 17-year veteran of the Franklin County Sheriff's Department. In December 2020, he was a full-time member of the SOFAST unit. As a reserve Marine in 2005, Jason was deployed for a 7-month tour of duty with Lima Company in Iraq. After several years in the reserves, he was honorably discharged from the U.S. Marine Corps. Personally, Jason is known as a man of faith and family. He has been married for over 20 years to his high school sweetheart, and they have 2 children together. Since 2014, Jason Meade has also been pastor at Rosedale Free Will Baptist Church in the community of Irwin in Madison County. It has been described by his associate pastor as a little country church.
My reason for showing you these clips is not to tell you what to think. I'm simply explaining what stands out to me. And whether I'm right or wrong, it seems like Jason Meade may genuinely believe that his actions were justified, even when others completely disagree with those actions.
You know, being a reverend and doing the police work, how do you balance that, right? Because of the work that you have to do.
I can see where you would ask that question, because I've dealt with this with a lot of believers on this line of work, and there was this common thought that was always presented to me that I'll leave my Christianity at the door. I'll leave my Christianity at the door, and I go, why? The greatest servant that we'll ever know of, ever in the history of this world, is Jesus Christ, God's only Son. He was the servant of all servants. What are we? We serve the public.
He also explained his understanding of the use of force in his work. He calls it righteous release.
There is times for righteous release. That's what I call it when we have a use of force. Because every now and then you have to actually use force. We don't go around looking for it because we don't have to. Plenty of people out there will give you that opportunity. Right. So we don't have to be bullies going looking for it. That's why I say it's a righteous release. There is release in our job that righteously we can actually have a use of force. And I've had people who say, how can you hurt someone? You know, Jesus said, turn the other cheek. And I say, read your Bible. He ain't talking about physically getting slapped in the side of the face. And when You know what David did? He threw the first punch. He threw the first punch, didn't he? All this to throw the first punch. You say, what? I don't know. Let me tell you something. I work for the sheriff's office down in Franklin County, Columbus. I work on a tactical SWAT team, and I also work for the U.S. Marshals Task Force. I hunt people. It's a great job. I love it. I've worked this job 14 years. You know, I ain't never been hit clean in the face one time. It's a fact. It ain't because I'm so good. I ain't bad, but I ain't because I'm so good. You know why? Because I learned long ago I got to throw the first punch. And I learned long ago why I'm justified in throwing the first punch. Don't look up here like, oh, police brutality. The people I hit, you wish you could hit. Trust me. Right? Yeah. You throw a punch and the pursuit will follow. Devil on the run. My favorite part is when the devil gets put on the run. And let me tell you why. Look what keeps going. They pursued. The punch was thrown. The damage was dealt. The champion fell. The enemy ran. Now this army is full of courage. They're reminded of the promise. They're reminded of the anointing. They're reminded there's a God in heaven. They're reminded that there is victory in Jesus. They run after them and they chase them off. Today, somebody needs to throw the first punch. David was the first one to do it, and then what happened? Everybody followed. I tell you, it's contagious. One of my SWAT guys throws a punch, I got to throw one in too. It's the truth. We have this little saying, hey, if you're going to get in trouble, I'm going to get in trouble too. You get days off, I get days off too. We'll make a vacation out of it.
In December 2021, Jason Meade was released on a $250,000 bond as he awaited trial.
This was an amazing investigation done by the DOJ. This was hours spent in.
Jason Meade will be held accountable, and Casey's death and that accountability will lead to justice for others. In addition to the criminal indictment that has been handed down today, we've also filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Jason Meade in Franklin County. Obviously, we know what Jason Meade's liability is here. He was an individual that targeted, pursued, and shot and killed Casey from behind walking into his own home. But Franklin County is also liable for Jason Meade's actions.
So another conclusion that he didn't hear you, and that's why he didn't turn and look at you.
You're asking me in this case? Not in this case, no, sir.
There's not two conclusions you can draw on this for him not to turn around.
No, because I know he knew I was there.
You're aware, you sat in his courtroom, that he had AirPods in, correct?
I never saw him.
Okay. I didn't ask you that. You're aware that he had AirPods in, correct?
Yes. And as he was heading back to their headquarters, witnessed a young man waving a gun at an intersection. The gun was tracking people that were coming across that individual's direction. Saw the young man get out of the car. He had a plastic bag in his left hand and he had the gun in his right hand. The young man turned and looked at Jason Meade. And at that point in time, two other U.S. Marshals task force pulled up. Jason indicated, that's the guy, that's the guy. At that point in time, the gentleman, Mr. Goodson, turned and the gun was pointed to my client. My client jumped to the left and fired at Mr. Goodson. It's a proper use of force, and he had to make a split-second decision, and based on the non-compliance and based on the gun pointing back to him, he thought that there was no other option. He had to use lethal force.
What? I'm sorry?
You want to identify who you are. Wouldn't you put your lights on?
No.
You wouldn't put your lights on. You're a law enforcement officer. You don't use your lights?
He turned and he ran away from me.
Okay,
and I jumped in my truck and I followed after him to catch up to him.
Talk about the other tools that you got. How about a siren? Did you turn the siren on, Mr. Meade?
No, I did not turn my siren on.
Well, that would certainly identify you, wouldn't it?
I don't know how I could identify myself any better than what I had done. It happened so fast that I responded as fast as I could to the actions that he was doing.
And as he was
many agonizing over the decision and frustrated that they could not reach a verdict.
Jason Meade was the only person that accused Casey of wrongdoing. He took his life, and here we are. But again, I stress that he was not acquitted. There were jurors back there that did not believe him, and we're not sure why it was hung. It could be that they didn't think that there was enough to convict, but I don't think anybody here in this courthouse, aside from Jason Meade, thinks that he's innocent. I think the prosecution did a great job showing that Jason Meade's state of mind was that he throws the first punch, he hunts people, and that he is justified in doing that he has a righteous release, when he does, commit an act of force while he is on the job. So I'm thankful that he is no longer a sheriff's deputy, but he needs to be behind bars.
Jason did not make a statement following the mistrial. His attorney stated only that he was extremely appreciative of the hard work done by the jury, who did exactly what was required of them. They had tried their best.
Thank you all for tuning in and watching up to this point. Like I said earlier, I wanted to bring everyone up to speed on the original trial so you can fully understand the significance of the reckless homicide conviction Jason Meade received on May 7, 2026. Now that we've revisited how this case began, let's focus on the conviction itself and what this latest judgment means moving forward.
This is the case caption, State of Ohio versus Michael Jason Meade, case number 21 CR 5052. We, the jury, upon our oaths and law and evidence in this case, find the defendant guilty of reckless homicide as charged in count 2 of the indictment, signed this 7th day of May 2026 by each and every juror. Do you want the jury pooled?
No, you don't.
All right. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the court and especially on behalf of the community, especially on behalf of the court. Thank you for your jury service. You're now free from all admonitions and warnings. Thank you.
All rise. Video of former Franklin County Deputy Jason Meade being booked into the Franklin County Jail. This happened right after a jury found him guilty of reckless homicide in the deadly shooting of Casey Goodson Jr. For the second time in this case, a verdict was not reached on the murder charge he faced. You can see Meade walking into the holding area at the jail with his dress clothes still on from court Thursday afternoon. He was then patted down and put in a jail uniform.
So I could tell you he's one of the most strong-willed man of faith I ever met. Jason flat out told me, he goes, Brian, if I go to prison, that's where God intended me. I wish a fraction of society, including myself, was that mentally strong, had that much faith. He's going to be okay at the end of the day, and the brother, sister, law enforcement, we're going to rally around him. Spoke to hundreds of my members today, hundreds, all saying, what do we do now? Where do we go now?
Steele tells me the conversation goes beyond the courtroom into how officers approach their jobs moving forward. At the same time, he pointed to the emotional impact this case has taken on Meade's family, now facing the reality of a conviction while uncertainty remains over a possible retrial on a murder charge.
I can tell you one thing about them, the faith is number one for them, so they're definitely, they're relying on their faith.
Prosecutors argued Meade's use of deadly force was not justified, while the defense maintained he acted reasonably in a split-second decision.
Where do we go from here? Is our training supposed to change, evolve?
After deliberating for 6 hours, jurors sent a message to Judge David Young saying it was impossible for them to reach an agreement.
Jurors responded, no, the jurors do not believe that additional time would lead to to agreement on either charge.
Then Young gave them the Howard charge, which basically means to try harder. An hour later, the jurors had a verdict.
It was a compromise. And there's nothing wrong with that either. There really isn't. I mean, technically, you look at it, it's like at least some of the jurors found that he was convinced that what he did was a reasonable officer in the same situation would have done the same thing, right? Because of his training experience. That's kind of the shtick. But at the same time, they said he was reckless.
Justice for Casey.
Justice for Casey!
Pamela, I have to ask, what went through your mind when you heard the verdict?
Thank you, Jesus. It's over. Finally, he has to stand accountable for what he did to Casey.
Now, one of the counts, we don't know what's going to happen next. What would you like to see with that murder charge?
Honestly, I would still like to see the murder charge pursued. And I would still like him to be convicted of murder because at the end of the day, that's what he did. He murdered Casey on December 4th, 2020. So he should be convicted of murder. But we are equally as happy that there's a conviction regardless because he's guilty.
Does it give you pause at all that this has been the second jury that has returned a mistrial on the murder charges?
I just think that we have people with different ideas and different ways of seeing things. And so, everybody has their own opinion, different ways of looking at things, and it just didn't line up with each other. And that's okay. But we got what we were supposed to do.
What did the last 5.5 years been like for you?
You know, a roller coaster of emotions, of course. You know, we were in trial, mistrial. We wait for years, continuance after continuance. Jason Meade got to be at home with his family for 5.5 years with no accountability on a $250,000 bond. So, you know, it's been a roller coaster of emotions for me and my family. But we stepped fast, we kept our faith, we kept praying, and we kept leading in love and light.
What message do you hope that the guilty verdict sends to other families out there also still waiting, for justice and closure and their day in court?
Prayerfully it gives them hope because, as we see here, we are getting accountability, so hopefully it gives them hope that they will too. And I pray they do.
Tamala, was there anything in this trial that stuck out to you? Obviously there were some differences, but watching it, was there anything that stuck out to you as to why we are talking about this right now?
Yeah, they didn't have a case.
But anything specific that you think tipped the jury over to the guilty on the reckless this trial versus what you witnessed in the first trial?
I think it's hard for the jury or any jury to convict an officer of murder. We're talking about an officer, and we know how people view officers. But I think the evidence and the way that the prosecution team presented the evidence is what the jury based their decision upon. We have an overwhelming amount of physical evidence in Casey's case that just cannot be ignored. And in the murder of Casey, Jason Meade was very reckless. So.
And I'll add that two of the jurors that I spoke to after the first trial indicated that had they been allowed to come to a decision separately on the charges, if you recall, they were instructed that it was pretty much all or nothing. They believed that they could have come to a guilty verdict on reckless in the first trial.
Tim, I know this doesn't bring Casey back, but I wonder what does the verdict, how does it, what does it do for you and your family?
It gives us closure, it gives us peace, and now I'm sure I speak for my family when I say this. I know now Casey can rest. We've been fighting for 5.5 years, and Casey sees his family fighting. He knows the stress, he knows the pain, he knows the heartache. And now not only can we try to find peace and finally start truly grieving, my baby can rest.
So what happens for you now? How do you move forward after today?
No, it's one day at a time.
If you could talk to Casey, I'm sure you're a praying woman, I'm sure you are. What are you saying to him?
We did it, baby. He's in jail. We wanted him in jail December 4th of 2020. So it's been a long roller coaster ride of him not being in jail for what he did to Casey. He's in jail. We can go home tonight and I can lay down and I can sleep comfortably knowing he's in jail.
Anything else you guys want to
add? I'll say on behalf of this family, I just commend them on their strength through this process, because it has been a long process, as you all know, experienced several times over, and it's been difficult for them. And so I commend them on their strength. I commend the special prosecutors for their work in bringing this case, because they have put a lot of effort into it, a lot of dedication, a lot of strategy. It's not easy to convict a police officer of any charge. And also just the investigation in itself. I think that, it's been in some circles framed as a political prosecution, and it's not that. It's actually been a very bipartisan effort from day one. From the DOJ and the FBI getting involved, and the dignity that they showed this family in those moments. It's all been very, very impactful. And so I do just want to add, because my grandfather passed away on Tuesday, and it was not lost on me that happened, because almost 60 years to the day, May 10th, 1966, he was actually shot and left for dead by a police officer in Dayton. And he was placed in the back of a police cruiser and left for dead. And it took a supervisor to come on the scene and to say, can you walk? And to escort him to the hospital. And in the hospital, he was again denied treatment. And it took a nurse who slipped our relative's phone number to a doctor who came in and performed surgery on him and saved his life. And it took the non-shooting officer who actually told the truth. And the allegations against my grandfather were dropped, and that officer was terminated. And my grandfather always showed that grace and appreciation for that supervisor and for that non-shooting officer that told the truth. That non-shooting officer was later ostracized by the police department, and he committed suicide. And so for as much as I thought about my grandfather in the past few days, I thought a lot about that officer, O.J. Bradley, that committed suicide because of how he was ostracized for doing the right thing. And I think this has been framed many times over as anti-police or as an attack against police officers. And I just want to honor my grandfather. I want to honor Casey, who has been pictured with police officers. I want to honor this family and all of us who actually support and appreciate police officers. Jason Meade is one individual who is charged and convicted criminally, but he is not who police officers are. And it should not be framed as that. This should not be a divisive moment. It should be an opportunity to heal. And that's what a conviction does. That's what accountability, that's what being held accountable does for our community. And I just think that all of this is a very powerful moment. And, I was gifted by Tamala and the family Casey's ashes right here in this bracelet. And I wore it today because I felt like it was, fitting to do so. And so justice for Casey. We are very appreciative of the community that has supported, and let's just keep pushing. Progress is our goal, and it's our guarantee. Absolutely. Any further questions? All right, thank you.
Justice for Casey!
After years of protests, courtroom battles, mistrials, public outrage, and emotional testimony, Jason Meade has now officially been convicted in the death of Casey Goodson Jr. On May 7th, 2026. The jury found Meade guilty of reckless homicide, but at the same time, jurors could not come to a unanimous decision on the murder charge, meaning the court declared a mistrial on that specific count once again. So what exactly does that mean? In simple terms, the jury agreed that Jason Meade's actions led to Casey Goodson Jr.'s death in a reckless and criminal way, but they could not all agree that prosecutors proved that he intentionally murdered him under Ohio law. That distinction is important because under Ohio law, reckless homicide carries a far lighter punishment than murder. Meade is now waiting sentencing, which is scheduled for July 16th. He could face prison time, probation, or other penalties depending on how the judge decides to sentence him. Meanwhile, prosecutors still have the option to retry the unresolved murder charge if they choose to move forward again. And that leaves this case in a strange place emotionally for many people. For Casey Goodson Jr.'s family, some see this conviction as long overdue accountability after years of waiting for somebody to finally be held criminally responsible for his death. For others, the inability to secure a murder conviction leaves them feeling like justice is still incomplete. And for supporters of Jason Meade, they continue to believe he was making a split-second decision, doing what he believed was in a dangerous situation. But no matter where anyone stands politically, emotionally, or morally, one fact is still unchanged. A 23-year-old man lost his life in his own doorway. Children in that house witnessed the aftermath. A family was changed forever. An entire community has spent years debating what justice is supposed to look like when deadly force is used by law enforcement. Cases like this are never about just one moment. They become bigger conversations about fear, training, accountability, race, policing, trauma, and trust between communities and the people sworn to protect them. And even though a verdict has now been reached on one charge, the conversation surrounding Casey Goodson Jr. is far from over. This case will likely be continued to be discussed for years to come, not only because of the verdict itself, but because of the questions that still remain in the minds of so many people. Go ahead and look right here. Thank you for watching News in Black.